Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about the skills assessment plugin. It's recently gone through a quick little enhancement. I'm so excited to show you, for those of you that are new to the plugin, what it does overall, as well as some of the new functionality that we've added to it. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alex Carrick. I'm one of the platform's consultants here at Kineo, really focused on the implementation and training of TOTRA. And getting to work with and talk about the exciting things we're doing as far as plugins, specifically like skills assessment, what we're talking about today. So some of you may be asking the all-important introductory question of what is skills assessment? And the really basic overview is that the skills assessment activity is a course activity that mimics a lot of the functionality that you would find within appraisals if you've used those within TOTRA. The big rub with a lot of activities or on-the-job training modules is that a user is enrolled in a course, but then it's difficult for there to be any interaction with a manager or another set of evaluators. So what we've done is we've built a way for that interaction to occur and be tracked within a course activity. And because it's a course activity, that means it can still be counted for course completion. It can still be counted as an activity completion. So to best understand how to use skills assessment, first we're going to start with going over the different roles that occur within the activity itself. So we'll start at the bottom. So that's actually going to be the user. This is going to be what you would expect. You know, they are enrolled in the course. They're going to interact with the activity. Moving up from there is the evaluator. That's going to be a person or persons, based on how you configure it, that are not enrolled at the course, but they're going to be able to interact with the activity. What we've done in order for them to be able to do this is create a dashboard that allows them to track progress as well as go into those activities. Otherwise, there's no way that an evaluator would know what they have to do or how to get into a course to actually interact with it. And lastly, this is part of a new enhancement, is we've added a third permission or role as a reviewer. They're not going to be able to interact with the activity. There's nothing for them to actually do, but they are going to be able to see the results. So you can imagine a use case where maybe someone in HR or someone that is a division head or just wants to be aware of what's going on, but not actually needing to complete anything. So a really basic use case for this, as demonstrated here, starting in the top left, we have Rick, who is going to complete a stage of a skills assessment activity that he needs to interact with. From there, Rick's manager is going to complete a second stage. And then once that's complete, we have Rick's department head, who is then able to review the results from both parties. So now I'm going to show you what this actually looks like in practice. So I'm now logged into a TOTRA site as Rick. You'll see that this is a really basic course page, and the skills assessment activity can be added just like any other activity and be interacted with as a user. When I click into this, when a user first clicks into the skills assessment, they're going to see the different roles that they are going to be the learner in this case. The evaluator is not currently set, and the reviewers are set within the activity. This could be one person or this could be multiple people. When it comes to an evaluator, we can set this where there's a one-to-one relationship between the evaluator and the user, for example, a manager. Or there's the functionality within the plugin to select from a set of evaluators. So this comes in handy if there's a group of people who are checking off certain skills within a store or certain tasks within a department, so that it doesn't necessarily need to be the same person, and that a user has the ability to choose who is evaluating them for this attempt. So I'll select my manager, Sally, and click OK. From here, you're going to get an overview of the assessment activity. So you'll see here that we have two different stages that it's going to give you an update. And the first is that it's a user self-evaluation. So when I access the activity, I'm going to be able to see exactly what I need to do. So as Rick, right, I'm going to set how I feel about skill X, how I feel about skill Y. Notice that I have the ability to set ranking questions. I can set multiple choice questions, and we'll talk a little bit more about these in a second. And I can also add short response questions. And then I'm going to click submit. And now my activity is complete. Now I've logged in as Rick's manager, Sally. So as Sally, the course and the activity are not going to show up in any type of current learning or record of learning blocks or reports. So I mentioned earlier that we built a custom skills assessment dashboard that can show up in the navigation bar, or you can link to it in various other ways. And in the dashboard, this is how your evaluators and reviewers are going to be able to track the progress of the skills assessments activities that they are assigned to. Notice that it's tabbed across the top so that they can follow along a journey of each user, as well as so they don't have to filter through an enormous list and have to filter through it. So you'll notice that Rick here, his skills assessment that we just filled is in progress. So it's going to show on this report, and this view link is how I'm going to get into the activity as an evaluator. You can also see that if a user fails a skills assessment, or completes a skills assessment, or completes and reviews. So those are the 4 stages that we have for our skills assessments activities. So if I jump in as an evaluator, I can view. There's my name, Sally Manager, as an evaluator, and you're going to see here who the reviewers are. It's in progress in the grade, and I can continue the last attempt. I can see here that Rick's first user evaluation is complete. Now, when I'm logged in as Sally, I can view the activity, and I can see exactly what Rick answered during his stage in the evaluation. Once I've reviewed his answers, if I'm not directly interacting with him while that's going on, I can access my portion of the activity. And as a manager, I can say and answer this question that's directed solely at me. Has this employee demonstrated all skills in an acceptable manner? Yes. I'll save my progress. What I probably should have done is just hit submit. And once I do that, this has all been complete, and I can go back out to my dashboard. You'll see that Rick no longer shows as in progress. Rick should show as completed. And here I could view my results if I wanted to go back and see how I answered that. Now I know you must be thinking, this all looks all well and good, but how easy is it to configure? So for that, I'm going to show you. I've logged back in as an administrator, and if I turn editing on in my course and edit the settings of my skills assessment activity, so each skills assessment activity has a dashboard. You'll notice that right under the title is a status. Those statuses are going to be active, closed, or draft. Notice that there is a version component here. So for those of you that have done quizzes, courses, activities, appraisals, it can always be kind of a headache when you're dealing with versions. Maybe you need to add a question or remove a question or fix a typo. Instead of having to create a whole new skills assessment activity, we've built versioning directly into the plugin so that you can have different versions, close one version, create a new version, make your changes, activate it. So then the system is going to be able to keep all your users installed and not mess up their flow, but also you'll be able to track which versions users are taking so that you'll know exactly what you should be looking for in case there are changes. So you'll see here again, rules across the top. We'll start off with content. I mentioned that this can be a graded activity, so you do have the ability to hide the grade from users if you would like. I know some people in some countries can be a little sensitive to that. And then each skills assessment activity is broken down into stages. So users can interact with stages at the same time. They can interact with stages at a different time. It's basically setting some guidance as to when things should be done. And you'll see based in our stages table that it will dynamically update based on the content within it, on who must answer, who can answer, who can view, and things of that nature. So example, for our user self-evaluation here, we're in that stage. You'll see that it'll say that this is the user self-evaluation's content. You'll notice that it's only letting me add non-question types. This is because this is a currently active skills assessment. So if I deactivate this, it's going to ask me if I want to deactivate. You'll say yes. You'll notice that my status moves to closed. And now I have the ability to add, not quite yet. I need to create a new version. So once I create my new version, you'll see that it's version 3 draft. Once I'm in a drafting status, I can start changing things. So I'm then able to add my questions. Beyond the regular questions, you can bring in another activity score from your course. You can add an HTML box. So if you want to add descriptions, instructions, links, videos, images, you have that ability. And aside from your multiple choice rating and short answer questions, you can also allow a user to upload a file. For those of you in a more hands-on environment, you can use that file upload on a mobile device if you want them to record themselves or take an image on their mobile device to upload for someone to be able to review. That's the kind of use case that we were thinking through on that. Once you've created all your content and your stages, well, I should show you how this looks. So if I'm going to create a rating question and I click add, you'll see that I can add my question. I can say whether I want the response to be factored in as part of the grade. I can say for each question type, there's obviously some different configurations to set. You know, from a really basic, from 1 to 5, you can set a default. And then on each question, you have the following permissions: who can answer, who is required to answer, if they can view other roles' answers, or if they can only view them after their own submission. So a really basic in this use case would be the learner can answer and is required to answer, and that we want to see that the evaluator and reviewer can view their answers. It probably helps if I make a question type or a question. And you'll see that my question gets added here at the bottom. So that's how I build my actual skills assessment that people are interacting with. I mentioned that the two other types of roles within this activity are the evaluator and the reviewer. The evaluator who's directly interacting with it, and the reviewer who is just reviewing the content and the answers. For both the evaluator and the reviewer, you can decide whether there's a single evaluator per attempt or if multiple people have the ability to evaluate. And for those of you that have your TOTRA knowledge, it's going to look and feel and operate a lot like building an audience. So you have your different rule sets, you have your and or operators, and then you can choose rules from if these users are part of an audience, if these users are the user's manager or indirect manager, what their role within the system is, as well as what their role within a learner's course group is. So a lot of different options depending on exactly how your users are set up, how your learners are set up, how your course is set up, to make sure that you have the right options for reviewers and evaluators within the course. And I also mentioned versions. You may have seen me do it quickly earlier. This is where your versions are going to track. So version 1, version 2, version 3. If I need to create a new version, I can do so. Notice that this is version 3 has not started yet. If I click to activate version 3, it's going to ask me if I confirm. Yes. If I go back to my versions tab, notice that my version 3 now has a start date. We purposely built the plugin to be very flexible. So these are just some of the potential use cases that we've come up with or we've heard from clients that we're really trying to fix, that we think this plugin is great for. So anywhere where a user and a manager are going to be interacting and you want that flow and you want that approval, I think there's a lot of capability here when it comes to approvals, when it certain courses or completions, program completions, certification completions. Anytime you need that kind of manager checkoff, this is a great program or a great plugin for that. As well as this is something that you could do your annual reviews on, and being able to go back and forth. Maybe there's a stage for every quarter. Maybe there's throughout the year, every month, every 2 months, every quarter, a check-in from both parties so that everyone involved can be able to take stock of what's going on within a user's learning throughout the year. So I want to thank you for taking the time today to learn a little bit more about skills assessment. If you have any questions, as always, you can reach out to myself or Taylor or anyone else on the Kineo team, and we're happy to talk more about it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.